Uche was a well-known figure in the small village by the Niger River in Anambra, Nigeria. At 65, he was a seasoned fisherman, respected for his knowledge of the waters and his skill in catching the finest fish. He had inherited his trade from his father, as did his father before him. Every morning, he would set out in his sturdy wooden canoe, navigating the river's calm waters before the sun rose. On one particularly foggy morning, as the first light of dawn began to pierce through the mist, Uche noticed an unusual sparkle on the water. Intrigued, he paddled closer, his curiosity piqued. As he approached, he saw something that took his breath away, a figure, half submerged, floating gracefully. It was a woman, or at least, she appeared to be. Her upper body was that of a beautiful woman with long, flowing hair and delicate features, but below the waist, she had the tail of a fish, covered in iridescent scales that shimmered in the dim light. Uche was captivated. He had heard tales of such creatures, mummy water, the water spirits that were both revered and feared in local folklore. But he had never believed in such stories, considering them mere myths to scare children. Yet, here she was, a vision of ethereal beauty, her eyes meeting his with a knowing look. As she began to sing, her voice was unlike anything he had ever heard, melodious and haunting, it seemed to call to the deepest parts of his soul. As Uche reached out to touch her, a sudden chill ran through the air. He hesitated, recalling the warnings of his late grandmother, who often spoke of the dangers of the river spirits. They are beautiful but deadly, she had warned. They lure men with their beauty and then drag them into the depths. But Uche, entranced by the creature before him, ignored these memories. The mermaid's song was all he could hear, drowning out the distant voice of caution in his mind. Overcome by a strange compulsion, Uche stepped into the water, drawn closer by her enchanting presence. The mermaid's lips curved into a smile as he approached, her eyes gleaming with a mix of seduction and mischief. Suddenly, the calm water around them began to swirl and a sense of dread washed over Uche. He realized too late that he had crossed a line, a boundary between the mortal world and the supernatural. The mermaid reached out and touched Uche's forehead with a gentle hand. Instantly, the flood of visions overwhelmed him. He saw images of countless men, drawn to the water by the same haunting song, only to be lost forever. Their faces were twisted in despair, their voices echoing with unending sorrow. The visions were accompanied by a cacophony of voices, whispering, shouting, and crying out in anguish. Uche's mind was flooded with confusion and fear. When Uche regained his senses, he found himself alone in his canoe, the mermaid nowhere in sight. He felt a strange sensation in his head, as if something was crawling under his skin. Panic set in, and he hurriedly paddled back to the village. But the man who returned was not the Uche the villagers knew. His eyes were wide and frantic, his movements erratic. He babbled incoherently about a beautiful woman in the water, a vision he could not escape. Over the following days, Uche's condition worsened. He refused to eat or sleep, spending his days on the riverbank, calling out for the mermaid. His family was distraught, and the villagers, frightened by his strange behavior, began to whisper about curses and possession. They avoided him, fearing the wrath of the river spirits. Some elders suggested performing a cleansing ritual, but Uche's wife, desperate and afraid, pleaded for help in vain. As Uche's madness deepened, he began to exhibit bizarre behavior. He would wander the village at night, muttering to himself, eyes glazed over. He spoke of voices in his head, of visions of the underwater world, filled with strange and terrifying creatures. He claimed the mermaid had promised him eternal life under the water, where he would be her consort. His words were met with horror and pity, but no one knew how to help him. One stormy night, Uche vanished. The river, swollen with rain, seemed to roar louder than ever, as if echoing the turmoil within him. The villagers searched for him, scouring the riverbanks and nearby forests, but there was no trace of him. His wife, heartbroken, believed he had gone to join the mermaid, as he had often threatened to do. The villagers could only speculate, their fear of the river spirits growing stronger. Days later, Uche's canoe was found, battered and empty, near a secluded part of the river. It was then that the villagers accepted the grim reality that Uche was gone for good. They performed the traditional rites for the dead, but there was nobody to bury. The elders decreed that the part of the river where Uche had disappeared was cursed, and they forbade anyone from fishing there. The area became known as Uche's Reach, a place shrouded in superstition and fear. Over time, the story of Uche and the mermaid became a legend, passed down through generations. Parents told their children to stay away from the river's edge, especially on misty mornings and stormy nights. They spoke of the mermaid who lured Uche to his doom, a warning of the dangers of the unknown. Some claimed to have seen Uche's ghost, wandering the riverbank, forever searching for the mermaid who had stolen his soul. The legend served as a stark reminder of the mysterious and often dangerous world beyond the everyday. Uche's folly became a tale of caution, reminding all who heard it that some things are better left unexplored, and that the allure of the unknown can lead to the darkest of places. The river, once a source of life and sustenance, became a place of fear, its waters hiding secrets that no one dared to uncover. And so, the river flowed on, its currents carrying with them the whispers of a tragic love story, a tale of madness and mystery, forever etched in the hearts and minds of those who lived by its shores.